Since before the earliest life dragged itself wheezing from the primordial swamp into the thick, acrid air of a new era, there has been a benevolent force driving life to exist and to reach its true potential on Earth, guiding its hand ever forward, willing it into its ultimate and most perfect form after his own image that we today call man. Having so shaped nature to benefit mankind, the benevolent force began shaping man to reach its place of destiny among the stars. In the beginning, it showed nearly man how to fashion crude tools from bone and chipped stone. In the Iron Age, it revealed to us how iron could be drawn from rock with purifying fire. It showed us how to cut and stack stone to create great monuments to mankind's triumph over nature. The pyramids, great walls, this thing. Many cultures have called this shadowy figure many different names. The Greeks called him Prometheus, a titan who stole fire from the gods and gave it to man. The Norse called him Loki, who tricked the gods. The Sumerians called him Enki, who gave wisdom to man so that he would be spared from the coming floods. But now, as mankind takes its first tentative steps into the vast, inky void of space, he made himself known to us as a guiding beacon of hope for the future of mankind. Not on Earth, that we have so callously and willingly destroyed in our wake, but instead a future living among the stars with our first new home on our neighbouring planet Mars. All that he has done for mankind has been leading up to this point. All our technology, our expertise, our dedication can finally bring his plan to fruition, of saving us from ourselves. And in this time of great triumph and celebration, it falls to us to give back to him for all he has done. It is time to do our duty. It is time to send him home. This is the story of SpaceX and the culmination of millions of years of planning to send the alien known as Elon Musk back to his home beyond the stars. Hello and welcome back to Strawman Gaming, and today, as you saw in that ridiculous intro, we are starting our journey into the vast void of space to return Elon Musk to his home planet, which I believe to be Mars, or that can be a good starting point, which in this game is called Duna. Although, I said he was an alien. I increasingly think he's some sort of benevolent time traveller. I'll try and remember to put up a tweet here that he said recently about how it's 2017, like why haven't we got a base on the moon? As if he's from a timeline where we had a base on the moon. So, you know, make of that what you will. But he's a strange fellow. And to be clear, I don't really think he's an alien, but if I had to pick a human that was an alien, he'd be top of that shortlist. So we're going to start our game. We're going to start new. Save name. SpaceX. Korea, a new flag. Which of these is most SpaceXy? So he's not British, so that's kind of a British Space Agency doesn't really work. I mean, this doesn't matter at all, but it kind of matters to me. Something generic like this. Let's go. No, that one. That will do. That is our flag that we will seek to plant on the moon, and we start. Wait for it to load. Okay, welcome to your Space Center. Nice to meet you. I'm Gene Coleman, flight director. Blah 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 blah. Right. So let me talk you through. I've clicked on the thing already. I didn't mean to. Yep, got it. Thank you. So leave that. So what we've got over here, we have our launch pad. We have our mission control, where you can like, do you know what, I'll just show you. These are contracts you can do to make money, because this is a career. So we've got 25,000 Kerbal bucks. I don't really know what they are. But these are contracts, so we can launch our first vessel. And if we achieve this, we will get 3,200, 1 science, and 1 reputation. That seems like a good place to start. Escape the atmosphere. Ooh, scientific data. Recover or transmit any science experiment data from Kerbal to achieve this goal. So we might be able to do that on the landing pad before we even launch. Prestige trivial. Orbit's a bit more difficult. Escaping atmosphere is a bit more difficult, especially as you start with very, very few parts. So I don't think you can even start with a heat shield. So when we try and re-enter the atmosphere, we'll just explode. I would prefer to preserve my Kerbals. And I think, yeah, we're going to take 2 contracts at once. So anyway, that's contracts. This is the spaceplane hangar, where we build spaceplanes. And they're useful for, you know, this is where we build rockets. Rockets go straight up. Spaceplanes take off like a plane. You're all familiar with planes. But they can be really useful on planets with high gravity but thick atmospheres, like Eve. You can get a lot of lift at very low speed and overcome gravity very easily. Astronaut complex. This is where all our astronauts live. There's a mechanic I don't understand. That Jebediah Kerman and Valentina Kerman both have a property that is badass. I don't know what it means. I think it means they can't be frightened, but I don't really know how that comes into play. So we've got that. We've also got a research and development. So this is our tech tree. So at the minute we have no science, so we can't afford basic rocketry or engineering. So we just have what we start with. This is an admin building, and this is all stuff I don't really understand. So you can basically, each of these will do a different thing. So they can trade prestige or reputation for money, and you can invest differing amounts. So if you've got a very prestigious agency, you can hurt your prestige, do some like quick and dirty research that's not particularly, you know, might not be properly peer reviewed, and you'll get a lot of science, but you'll damage your reputation, stuff like that. I've never really experimented with this because they always seem to give kind of very meager rewards for really quite harsh punishments, but we'll explore that a bit later on. And the tracking station. This is the more complicated area where you can track the whole solar system, and as you upgrade it, you can start to add maneuver nodes to help you manage your space flight more efficiently. So this is Kerbal here. This is the Mun. It's probably pronounced Moon, but I've always said Mun, and this is Minmus. And Minmus is much further away, so you think that would make it more difficult to get to, but it's also a lot lighter, so once you land on it, you can get back a lot easier, so you need a lot less fuel to return. And I paused before I said fuel. I want to say delta V. I should explain that delta V is the main measure of how much potential or like distance you can travel in space. Delta in physics means like change of, and V is velocity. So leaving Earth isn't about getting, you know, it's like college. It's not about getting high, it's about getting fast. So the moon isn't falling into Earth, not because it's high up, but because it's going round. So it's constantly being pulled towards us, but it's missing, and it's missing at like a fixed rate. So it orbits, essentially. It's always missing by the same amount, so it's got a very circular orbit with no eccentricity. Or very low eccentricity. Minmus looks to have a little bit more eccentricity, a little bit less round, and then this is our orbit around. Can I move the camera any? Nope, I'm forced to. Nope. So this is the sun, and then we've got Moho, Eve, Duna. That's where we want to get to. That's Mars, and it's a good endpoint. Then we've got Dres, and this green one, if I can find it, I think is Jewel. And then this one that's not on the plane of the ecliptic. Also, Dres isn't on the plane of the ecliptic either. Do I mean plane of the ecliptic? I think I do. And then we've got this. Elu, the furthest away, the most eccentric, and the most inclined. So that's oh, we can move. Oh, we can just change focus. Silly. Yeah, so there are our planets. I don't think we can do anything extrasolar. I don't think we can explore into the galaxy. But yeah, you kind of... It puts it all in perspective. I mean, I don't mean life in general, but I guess it does. But you look at this. You zoom right in, you're like, ooh, how are we going to get to the moon? And it's right there. You could, like, spit and hit it. Let's focus on the moon. Lovely. But then you zoom out, and then you've got Minmus. You think, well, that's a long way away. And you zoom out again, and you're like, oh. Oh, okay. And the delta V required, or the change in velocity, I'll say that for a few times until you get used to hearing it, to get to the moon is significant. I think it's a few VL. I don't know what that means. But I think it's you need to go, like, say, between 1,000 and 2,000 delta V to get to the moon. And as much to get, less to get back. But anyway, a significant amount of delta V. The delta V to drop from one orbit to another, because that's the thing, you always just think, oh, can't you just jump down into the sun? Like, no, because you're still going quickly in this direction. You have to slow yourself down so you can decay to this orbit, and then circularize yourself when you get to it to match that orbit. So you have to lose so much speed to come down to a lower orbit, and then use speed in the correct direction to correct that orbit so you can come into have an encounter with Eve, and even more so with Moho. Or to go further out to Duna and Dres, you need to pick up a lot of speed. And there's ways you can do it. You can just take off and just burn fuel until you get faster and faster and faster until you get to here. Or you can do what's called a gravity assist, which is I don't fully understand what it is, because, you know, even though it's massive, this is a closed system, so you can't produce energy from nothing, essentially. So I think what I'd expect to do would be to, like, if we're coming up, if we want to get out to, say, Elu, we want to get to a massive planet, let's say Dres, and if we count behind it in its orbit, it would we would be accelerated towards it because its gravity would pull it towards us, and then we'd kind of like try and whip round it and shoot off to Elu. Or would use it, you know, something similar to that. But if that works the way we think it works, that the gravity pulls us and then throws us away, that doesn't make any sense. Because you think about, we're falling into it, and we're gaining energy, which as we're thrown away from it, we lose. So our speed relative to Dres can change, but our speed relative to the sun or the system as a whole can't. I think that's right. But anyway, it's a little bit confusing. And I should, like, disclaimer, I did aeronautical engineering at university for 3 years and then left, so I don't have an aeronautical engineering degree. That will become very apparent. But we did do rocketry and we did orbits and stuff, and I used to know all the equations and stuff, so somewhere in the depth of my brain there might be an understanding here that might shine through. Or that bit of my brain is just completely atrophied away and there's a giant void where that knowledge used to be kept and no new knowledge can be stored. I don't know. But anyway, oh, that takes its time to render in. What's this? I'm hoping that's not just a... No, that is something. Can I move over there? What's the thing? I don't know what the thing is. I might have to build a plane and fly over there at some point. So, let's start by building our first rocket. And it's very, you know, we have a command pod, an engine, some girders, no coupling, no payload, some little tiny basic fins that don't even have steering, they just keep you straight, no ground stuff, no thermal, no electrical, no communication. Oh, I've got mystery goo, so that's good, and some utility, which is a parachute. So, the rocket we can build, take a pod, click, there we go. And then, before I forget, we'll put a parachute. So, you have to click and then place. I've been trying to click and drag. Then we take a rocket. Pretty much done. And so over here, in the bottom right, is the staging. So the first thing I want to happen is I want the rocket to launch. And then the second thing I want to happen... so rocket first, parachute second. And you can open up the... parachute and tell it to open at 1,000. I think this is feet or meters, but It takes a long time to come down, so I'm going to take a risk and do that down to 550. So yeah, and then we'll add some science in the form of mystery goo. Try and click and drag again, it's really annoying. So we'll add, do you know what, let's add 4. It means we can't EVA because it'll block the EVA is extra vehicular activity or extra vehicle activity. It means get out of the thing. So I'm going to attach them to this because why not? And then we'll call this basic craft 1 brackets science 4. Because that's a needlessly complicated name for a model we'll never ever use again. Staged, and we will launch. So, there's a few things we want to do. So the way mystery goo works is quite strange. You look at it, so we'll do it here. Observe mystery goo. It opens mystery goo observation from launchpad. The goo doesn't seem to be doing much right now, but that was worth 3 science. And I wonder, it says recovery 3 science transmit, so it's better if we just keep that. So every biome that you examine the mystery goo in gives you another result, and the biomes are in the atmosphere. So there's low atmosphere, well, there's launchpad, low atmosphere, mid atmosphere, high, and then extra outside the atmosphere. But there's also biomes here. So if you make a little vehicle, like you make a little space plane, just drive it about. The launch pad is a biome, which you've just done. So is the command module, the big building, that building, all the buildings are different biomes. So you can drive about and get lots and lots of science. It's a good way to make science earlier. Also, the sea is a biome. So if we land in the sea, that'll be useful. The mountains are biomes. It's just everywhere you collect data from, and there's lots of different data. There's temperature data, and the mystery goo collects mystery goo data. There's thermal data, there's pressure data, there's seismic data, and it gets more and more complicated because we've got Jebediah Kerman. He's a pilot. He's not much. He's good at flying, and he's got some benefits once he levels up. But if we had a scientist, they can EVA and reset this so you can use each one multiple times. But enough of that. Let's start our momentous journey into space by pressing space. Look at us go. So we're already going, got what, twice the speed of sound there? Roughly? No, well no, the sound's 330 feet per second. And this is meters, so we went a lot faster than sound there. But your first flight, you go up, you wait for yourself to slow down due to gravity, and you come back down. And I can't remember if I have to stage the parachute manually, so when we get down to about 1,000 meters, I'll just press space and see what happens. Jebediah's having a lovely time. But there's not, I can speed it up, I don't want to risk smashing into the ground. And yeah, it'd be better if we fall in the other way, but the parachute will just pull us around the right way, and we don't have to, I think, really worry about G-forces at this point. And, you know, this is relatively high for, you know, URI, U or I, but for a rocket, this isn't, we just scratched the middle of the atmosphere, I think. So we're just going to career towards our death. Oh, I didn't look at the goo. I can look at one of them. Observe goo while we're in the air. It jiggles. That's good. So I think the problem there was I set the parachute to open too low, but we survived. We won't recover the rocket parts, that'll cost us a bit of money, but Jebediah didn't die. And we can prove that. All hatches are obstructed, can't exit, but that's fine. So let's recover vessel. I got distracted by the... Wait, do we lose the mystery goo? That's frustrating. Done. Right, let's do that again, but just not be an idiot about it. You. Open at 1,050. And let's do it again. But we'll remember to do the we need to do it again, don't we? Because it got destroyed. So we'll keep that. And then we'll go. Might as well do one here because we're off the ground. We'll keep that. Can I get a crew report? Another 3.5 science, which we'll keep. I think we're just in the upper atmosphere, the mid-atmosphere. Maybe not. Jiggles as the craft flies. Let's try. We're a bit further up now. Let's try that one. Yep, still giving us data, so that's fine. So, I've seen this before. I will risk speeding it up slightly. And by slightly, I mean by a factor of 3. Open that now, because that's just like a... It's not a drogue chute, because that's a very specific thing. It's just it kind of partially opens and waits until... What was that warning? Abort action group. I don't know what that means. Waits till 1,000 meters to deploy properly. Yeah, there we go. And we're down to sub 10 meters per second. I think this engine has a G-force tolerance of 12, so this is going to be fine. Speed it up, which is risky in Kerbal Space Program because the physics works strangely. Although warping time stops physics entirely, but I'll explain that as we see it. There's some tricks you can do with that. And we land. EVA. Let go. Oh no. Get up. Okay. Can you do EVA report? Another 2.5 science, so I'll keep that. And then we'll recover vessel. So did the goo help us? Oh, okay. I didn't recover that apparently. Yeah, so I think we started with 25,000 Kerbin bucks. I should really learn the name. And now we have over 100,000. So this to me is going well. And we should go to research and development, and we should get basic rocketry. Search that, engineering, and then stability. So if we're gonna touch the upper atmosphere, we need heat shields. And if we're gonna, I haven't got enough. But we always need stability, so let's do. Well, we've still made progress. Let's see if there's any missions we want to do. Active. Yep, good. They're both completed. So, escape the atmosphere. Significant prestige. Breach atmosphere by flying a vessel to an altitude of 70,000 meters to achieve this goal. That should be, I think, with what we've got now, that should be okay. Stuff like this is a little bit more annoying because it gives you so haul the Mark 16 parachute into flight above Kerbin. You have to... So we have to... What's it mean? While cleaning up after an unintended ignition, one of the overworked teams of research and development department raised an interesting question. There's well knowledge about how that Mark 16 parachute performs under conditions not found in a standard laboratory. Now we need your help. So it says we need to have it. We need to have it on Kerbin. We need to be flying. And again, I'm not sure if flying means we need to be on a space plane or need to be on a rocket. It needs to be between 4,000 meters and 12,000 meters. Between 80 meters per second and 240 meters per second. I don't know if that means that's when it has to be activated or just has to be there. It says how it performs under conditions not found. So it seems like you just have to use it, but yeah, this is testing a rocket that we'll use quite often on the launch pad, so we'll take that as well. It takes us to 120,000. Let's leave, and let's try and build something. Get this trash out of here. You go away. So what have we got that's new? We have now fuel tanks, so that means we have liquid rockets and the swivel rocket, which is lucky because that's one we need to test. What else have we got? Utility, parachutes, different parachutes. Yeah, there's the drogue chutes, which are small parachutes for high viscosity atmosphere, not viscosity, high density atmospheres. New science, so barometer and thermometer, so that everywhere we go, we should take one of them. These are for they're antennas, so they're for radioing back to Kerbal. But if you send a pilot, say to Duna, you can just fly the rocket fine. But if you send a probe core, so it's remote controlled, it needs to be able to communicate, and obviously signals have a range. You have to build better and higher gain antennas to do so. But we'll come to that. We need to. Thermal is the heat shield, so we can get back from outer space without exploding. Some landing struts for if you ever land on another planet, which we will do at some point. Same fins. Payload. So what does the service bay do? So it protects delicate service equipment, such as RCS tanks, batteries, etc. Don't know, we'll play with that later. Stack decoupler, so we can separate ourselves from our engines. So let's just start. So start pod. And then I think we only need the basic parachute still. But if we're going to try and scratch atmosphere, or leave the atmosphere, we need a heat shield. So this should fall bottom first, and these tiles on the bottom, they dissipate heat. And they do it by heating up and then falling off, which seems stupid, but it works really, really well. And that's called ablation. And then, since we're going to do, not just, but we'll do some liquid fuel. Oh no, I forgot the stack decoupler. Stick that on there. So that means at some point we can tell these bits to fall off and come crashing back down to Earth, unless you put a parachute on them, but I'm not going to. And yeah, that'll be fun. Rockets. So this, use a swivel engine for this. And I'm going to be overly ambitious. I'm going to stick a stack decoupler on the bottom of that, and beneath that we're going to stick a solid rocket booster. So we want this to go that rocket, decouple that rocket, decouple there, and then parachutes. That's right. Since this is a little bit longer, we're gonna stick some aerodynamics on it, and we're gonna stick in. So this is for the low atmosphere. So when the air is thickest, that'll take us up probably, I don't know, maybe 5,000 or 6,000 meters. Where it's a little bit thinner, and I don't want to put any fins up here because they'll start to they'll fight against these ones. I think. You know, always remember a dart. The fins are at the back, so it flies straight. A little drink of water. And I should address, there is a commonly thought myth with rockets. Like, surely it's fundamentally unstable. The power is pushing upwards from the back, and there's weight up here, so it's fundamentally unstable. Surely we should have the rockets at the top and hang everything back from it, and it'll, like a pendulum, it'll level itself. And this doesn't work. And the way I've heard it explained is because the rocket acts along a vector, so it thrusts vertically, but gravity acts uniformly on all points. So there is no twisting force. Like, this doesn't. If this was the other way around, this wouldn't hang from the rocket specifically, because because this is acting along a vector, which is along a line, it doesn't matter necessarily where it is, and gravity acts on all points equally. So the idea that it would hang just doesn't work. It just creates an awkwardly shaped rocket when you've got extremely high temperature exhausts in front of sensitive equipment such as people. You don't really want that. So, what's our... I know you can check your thrust to weight, but I can't remember what is a good thrust to weight ratio. I think it's somewhere not much over 1, like 1.2 to 1.5. But I honestly can't remember. So we've got this, come this far, so let's do some science. And again, we're going to go a bit overboard with science. Let's do 3 of each. So do 3 barometers, which I will forget to check. We'll do 3 thermometers, and we want mystery goo for upper atmosphere and orbit, and we may land in this. Let's take 3 of these as well. I don't see a good reason really not to, other than they will ruin my aerodynamics and stop us exiting the crew quarters. But let's call this Sky Puncher. Science 12. Is my math that terrible? Yes. 9. Save it. And let's risk a launch. Okay, so don't fall over. First things first. Let's 'Let's log pressure data. 3.6 science. Keep that. And we will log temperature. 2.4 science. So we've checked how hot it is on Earth and the pressure at sea level. We are really pushing the boundaries of science here. So was it Z to maximize liquid thrust, but we're not doing that yet. Stage correctly. SAS on, which is some sort of stability assist that keeps it basically pointing along your prograde. Well, it doesn't. Yeah, it does, but it doesn't. Anyway, let's go. Get rid of this. Go away. I don't want that. Stop. Okay. Well, that just lives here now. So we've burned off half our solid fuel. It's going okay. Got some atmosphere effects, but we don't want to get too fast too early. So we'll throttle the engines back a bit. Man, that's a thirsty engine. So we want to be still accelerating, but we don't want to be burning fuel too quickly. So while we're up here, let's log pressure data and log temperature. What we should have done a little while ago is, I've got myself confused, is start what's called a gravity turn. As we're getting lighter, I can throttle the engine back even further. And yeah, I don't think we're going to leave the atmosphere, but that's okay. We've got pretty high. I mean, we could always just add more fuel to this, but I mean, there's an equation called the rocket equation that basically tells you that the more you want to lift into space, the more you have to leave behind. So if we add 2 more fuel tanks here, then we need significantly more thrust to get us off the ground and get us moving. So we're going to run out of fuel. And what's our apoapsis? Well, so it's 100 and so that's outside the atmosphere. So that should complete the mission. But yeah, people play this and just like, oh, we'll just add more fuel to the top section, and well, let's eject that because it's doing nothing for us. The problem is, to get anything into space, you need a lot. You know, 1 kilogram at this altitude maybe requires 10 kilograms at the ground to get it going. So you rocket, people just, I don't know, you get some ridiculous looking rockets, and I will make some ridiculous looking rockets, don't think I won't. Log temperature. Okay, we've done that one. Log temperature. Excellent, plenty of science. Log pressure data. And observe mystery go. Keep that. So we are getting up to 113,000 meters. Which is pretty high. We can see very much that Kerbal, much like Earth, is spherical. So that's good. You can see a little galaxy over there. But there is a lot of waiting. You know, space travel takes a long, long time. Let's try looking at this. See if we can just finesse more science out of it. So, and that's another 10 science, actually. I wonder what changed. Maybe there was, like, outside the atmosphere and then, like... Well, we're not in space. So now we need to... Oh, my goodness. We need to align ourselves with our retrograde marker, because we want to come in bottom first, and that retrograde marker will shift. The controls are weird and like reversed in some directions. That's probably right. We'll just see what happens there. But we've got a bunch of science. We've touched space. What have we got? Escape the atmosphere. So that's, we've got 20,000 for that. Thank you. Okay. Oh, I didn't want to do that. So, bin it. Escape the atmosphere. That's another 32,000. Gather scientific data from Kerbal. Yeah, so we've made a bunch of milestones. So it's going well. And we're at 35 minutes, so once this this spacecraft comes back to Kerbal, oh, we are going to land in the sea, so we can do a go in the water. I'm going to speed this up a little bit because it's just taking... I don't want to go too fast because we are going to start coming in against atmospheric effects soon. Yep. Can I pause? My headphones are being idiotic and pretending there's no noise right now. Okay, I'll just take them off and resume the flight. So if we keep along our retrograde, the way this is, the aerodynamics will work on this should keep it bottom side down. Like it doesn't, it naturally wants to fall this way, but I'm gonna attempt to help it as much as possible by keeping our I don't know what this bit is called, this little kind of a chevron thing. Keep that along our retrograde marker. That just means we're pointing in the opposite direction to the direction of travel. You know, if it's a rocket, so it's used to going that way up. I hope the science doesn't explode. Which it may well do. I can't see anything starting to heat up, so it might be okay. Okay, the atmosphere is starting to get pretty thick now. Yeah, all the science is fine. You can check on this thing. Yeah, so we didn't even use any of the ablation. So that means it's just as good as new, effectively. How do we get rid of that? Do we click? Ah, you right click somewhere that isn't a thing. I see. So we're still decelerating, so we'll wait until we kind of reach terminal velocity for low atmosphere before... Actually, no, I won't. I'm just going to pop the chute. We've done too much to give it all up now. My headphones have decided that this sound again. I need to get some wired ones. These are wireless, and they're from 2008, so they're pretty good still, but They throw a fit when they think there's no sound. Now we descend. This is at double speed. I mean, what, 6 meters per second, and we have to go 200 meters. Maths fans amongst you will be able to work out how long this should take us. Landing. 3, 2, 1. Splash down. Okay, at least it floats. Let's observe the mystery go. The go escapes into the water. For science. Keep experiment. Recover vessel. Loading. So we gathered a whole bunch of science there. And look, gathered a whole bunch of money as well. With, what, 10 times the money we started with? Should start a space agency, man. So we've got 90 science. Let's go spend... no, this is the wrong place. Where do you spend it? You spend it at research and development. So I want general rocketry for bigger fuel tanks, better solid rocket boosters, and a better liquid engine. Stability... I can kind of take it or leave it at this point, because this is the winglet does generate more lift or straightening force, because lift. But we could get the Terrier, which is a tiny little engine designed for use in a vacuum. If I can't move the mouse to it, but if you look where it says thrust ASL and thrust vacuum, thrust ASL is, I think, thrust at sea level, and then thrust vacuum is thrust in a vacuum. So it produces 4 times the thrust in a vacuum that it does at sea level, and it uses just a tiny amount of fuel. And when you're in space, like, I know that the speeds are huge, but done properly, it only takes quite a small shift, like quite a small bit of impulse or thrust to make big changes. So these engines are actually really useful. You've got engines later, like where's the mainsail? Nope, over here. This one, yeah, like the mainsail. That have huge amounts of thrust, but use a lot of energy. And then you've got little tiny things like the Poodle that does very, very little, but uses very, very little energy. It's still extremely useful. So we're going to take this because we want a space engine, because that'll help us get into orbit. 45, can't afford that. So yeah, the science costs really do stack up very quickly. But once you start landing on other planets, the science income goes up massively as well. And we'll research stability. There we go. That's a nice looking tech tree. And we're very quickly going to run into limitations of the launch pad. So it's only 50,000 to upgrade it to 140 tons, up from I think 30 tons. So that's a significant upgrade. And we can upgrade this, but it's much more expensive. But anyway, we're going to end it there. That has been our introduction to our journey into the stars to return Elon Musk to Duna, or Mars. These videos, I intend for them to be every day, but they might be every second day. But in any case, subscribe if you want to see more, because there will be more coming. If you like the video, leave a like and leave a comment down below telling me what you liked, what you want to see, any challenges, anything I miss or don't understand. Like, keep me informed. There's a lot to know in this game, and I don't know it. So if you know it, tell me. If you do something that annoys you, hit that dislike button. Tell me what I've done to annoy you, and I'll try and fix it. This has been Strawman Gaming. I'm your Strawman, and I will see you tomorrow.